Well, yeah, it's been a long time. I've not actually been very well, to be honest with you. I've been not very well at all. I'm sort of getting a wee bit better now, and I've been working really hard and doing decorating, and I just want to feel better. It's funny that it's only when you're ill that you realise how you take feeling well for granted. There you go. So anyway, I thought I'd come back fighting to tell my story about how I had an interaction with one of the Beatles, Sir Paul McCartney, and talk about this track, My Love. Basically, it's quite simple. I'd always liked the Beatles. Always liked the Beatles, and My Love, I don't remember it getting released, I just remember it always just being there. And I had the chance to see Paul McCartney on tour in Glasgow when Linda, his wife, was still alive, his first wife. And I don't know why I never went. It was in Glasgow, I never went. And then he took a break for ages, and he got a new lineup round him, and then he said he was going to tour, and I just thought, I've got to see him this time. And he wasn't playing in Scotland this time or Glasgow. He was playing in the MEN arena, which is the arena where he had the bombing at a few years ago. And he was playing there, and I thought to myself, I need to go. He's not getting any younger. Well, neither am I. And I thought I need to go and see him. I'm just trying to find out what year this was. Oh, there you go. My God, this was 11 years ago. So this is 2011, apparently. So me and my wife went down to Manchester, and we got tickets. We were in not the bits, the stalls. Is the stalls the lower bit? I can't remember. We were on the flat bit, and I was right on the side end of the row. And I had no expectations of what he was going to play. I never even thought about what he was going to play. And he came out. His first song was Hello Goodbye, and it completely, utterly floored me because it sounded just like the Beatles. And I was just emotionally taken back. I'd had a few pints of beer, right enough, so I was in that state. Well, not drunk, obviously, but I was, emotionally charged. And as soon as that came, and I just stood up and started dancing. But the only person, I was looking out the whole of this arena, nobody's dancing apart from me. And because I can get away with it because I'm at the side, I could sort of stand just to the side, and I wasn't obstructing anybody's view. Because sometimes you get that, sit down. So anyway, during the set he did My Love. Which is a song that he wrote about Linda, who passed away, and now he's married to another girl called Heather Mills. Don't need to go back on that subject. And literally he started it off, and tears started running down my eyes. Literally, tears were running down my eyes. I just couldn't believe it. For some reason, that particular song had a real strong emotional. Set me off. I don't really understand, and it wasn't the last time that happened. Actually, I had a similar experience years later, singing again Paul McCartney, which I maybe go back to another time. And tears running down my eyes, and I thought, wow, I just wasn't expecting this at all. And the history behind the particular song, especially the solo, which I just want to talk about briefly here, is that when the solo was getting recorded, when the people who were in Wings at the time, they had an Irish guy called Henry McCulloch, and Henry McCulloch was in Joe Cocker's Grease band. He joined Wings, and normally McCartney would just say to everybody, I want you to play this, I want you to play that, I want you to play the other, and Henry McCulloch said, I think I've got this. And he came out with the classic solo on My Love, and it is, if you listen to it, it's a work of genius. I think he did it in one take. It's just a work of genius. Now Henry McCulloch for those who don't know who Henry McCulloch was, he was in Joe Cocker's Grease Band. If you've ever seen the Woodstock documentary, or the film of Woodstock, when Joe Cocker is singing, ironically, A Little Help from a Friend, which obviously Paul McCartney wrote, and the people are doing the backing voices where they sing, do you need anybody? Boom, 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 boom. I need someone to love. Dum, 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 dum. Could it be anybody? Well, the person who's singing that high bit is Henry McCulloch. You can see him there. He looks fantastic. He's playing the guitar. He just absolutely looks brilliant. And so he was playing in Joe Cocker's Grease Band. And there's a connection between that and my current band, Fairport Adventure, which I'll come back to another time. I don't want to spoil it. However, I actually got to see Henry McCulloch playing in a pub near Perth called the Fabulous Bean Inn, which was a guy called Mundell, David Mundell, not the Tory politician, in case you're getting mixed up, but it's a guy called David Mundell somehow managed to got these premises, which he eventually lost, but he's somewhere else now. And he got Henry McCulloch there. Now Henry McCulloch, just in case, another fact you may not know is, if you've ever played the Dark Side of the Moon album, the guy who says, the guy says, I don't know, I was really drunk at the time, that is Henry McCulloch, because at the time when Pink Floyd were making that album, Wings were in a next door studio doing their album, which I think the one that My Love came off, and they got interviewed different people. They didn't interview McCartney, but apparently they didn't use him, but they used Henry McCulloch. So if you ever listen to Dark Side of the Moon, the guy who says I was drunk all the time, that's Henry McCulloch, the guitarist out of the Joe Cocker's Grease Band, played at Woodstock, and I got to see him, and I went up and met him. He's sadly dead, he's no longer with us, and I got to meet him and see him doing his show, and I also got him to sign my CD. I was going to show you the CD, but it's stuck behind my keyboard at the moment, and it's all mixed up, so I need to sort that one out. So anyway, that's Henry McCulloch. So McCartney's playing My Love without Henry McCulloch, of course, because he's got his band around him. And I started, I just stood up the whole time. And next thing, some guy a bit further in front of me turned round, stood up, looked at me, and he did this. And I just thought, right, okay, I'm game. So I then left my seat and went right down to the front, not in front, sideways to the stage, because I didn't want to block anybody's view. And right below me, sitting below the barrier, was actually Heather Mills, Paul McCartney's wife. And I was dancing along, and he was a bit close to me as well. And then this guy came up to me called Jed. I've just remembered his name. I was actually trying to think about it the other day, but his name was Jed. And he said to me, he came right up to me, this is during the concert, and said, are you coming tomorrow? I says, no, I'm not coming tomorrow, I've only got tickets today. I says, I live in Scotland. I says, come all the way down to Manchester. It's a hell of a trip, because at that time I was living in near Hamilton. So it was a hell of a journey. And it was my poor wife had to drive us back after the show. And I says, no, I won't be. No. And he says, do you want front row tickets for tomorrow's show? And I was astounded. I said, I would have thought they'd all been sold out. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So he says, what's your name? He said, put down my name. He says, but my wife as well. He says, so you want two? I says, yeah, I need two. He says, my wife's going to drive us down, no drive them home. And I just went away thinking, what the hell was that all about? Why is the front row not sold out? Why does he want me to go to the front row? This became apparent the next night. So the very next day, I rung up the MEN and spoke to the box office. I says, hello. I says, I'm just trying to make sure before I head down to Manchester from Scotland, are there two tickets for the front row in my name? And he says, hold on a second. Oh, he's just walked in. Here's Jed now. Yeah, what's your name? Gave him a name. He says, yeah, two tickets for front row. I thought, my God, this is amazing. And so we drove down. Now the previous night we were stuck in the car park next to the MEN. But the good thing, the funny thing about that was, another wee story is that while I was waiting, There's a guy, there's a comedian in England called Peter Kay, and he did this comedy show called Phoenix Nights. And one of the main guys in Phoenix Nights, this sort of guy who owned the club, not Peter Kay. I think he was a sort of gangster guy who owned another club. I can't even mind his actor's name. He was from Liverpool. And as we were sitting in our car waiting for us to get out of this car park, I looked over thinking, that's that guy from Phoenix Nights. But, so being me, I've got absolutely no problem just going up to people. I just went up to him. This is before you could do this. Hey mate, can you give us a selfie? So I just went up to him and checked his, says, how's it going? You're from Phoenix Nights. He says, I was saying, it says, so what's happening? Is there going to be a new series? He says, it's up to Peter Kay, isn't it? It's up to Peter Kay. Subsequently, there wasn't another season of Phoenix Nights, and he knocked it on the head. And of course, he did other things. But I'll come back to that story another time, because there's a follow-up to that one, funny enough. So, wow, it's quite amazing. But anyway, going back to, so we go down to the MEN, and this time we don't park in that car park, even though we might meet somebody famous. We parked at another place, which every time I go down there, I always parked, an off-road place, which you can get out a lot quicker. And what the previous night had been an absolute joy and a blast and a celebration, one of the greatest concerts I've ever been in my life. The second night, I wish it could be the same. We went and got our tickets, me and that guy did, they looked to me, that was him as well, he was there as well, and a couple of other people I recognised dancing. Next thing is, there we were, escorted down to the front row. Front row, there we are. And, I'm thinking, my God, literally I'm here, and like Paul McCartney's maybe 10 foot away when he finally came on. And of course, the reason why they did this is because the previous night, there was only like 4 people, 5 people dancing. Of course, what happened is when Paul McCartney came on and sadly repeated exactly the same set list, and unfortunately all his banter was exactly the same, word for word from the night before. That was the shame about it. He couldn't come out with something different on the spot. It was exactly word for word the night before. And when he came out and started doing Hello Goodbye, me, my wife and all the other people immediately stood up. And of course, we stood up and got out of our seats, leaned on the barrier a few foot from us. And of course, everybody behind us then couldn't see. So they stood up as well. And the people behind them stood up. And so there was a sort of domino effect going down to halfway down, where everybody who the previous night had been sitting down now was forced to stand up and dance, because the people in front of them, us in the front row, decided we were going to stand up. And that was the whole reason why we got asked. That's why they saved those seats in the front row, because they just thought, oh, the atmosphere's a bit dead. And they saved them for people who were going to dance. So because I was a bit of a dancey guy, I got front row tickets, which ended up being weighty because I stood, but at least I was literally 10 foot from Paul McCartney. So anyway, the interaction. So what happened is that during the set, because I knew exactly what he was going to say, I picked my moments here, because he then, in between one song, before he's doing another song, he was referring to something that's happened in Japan. Now, I don't know if you all remember, of course, in Japan, Paul McCartney was on tour with Wings, that finished off Wings actually, and he got his suitcase checked, and they found out he had his own personal supply of marijuana. Of course, I'm Paul McCartney. Didn't hold any water for the drug enforcement agency in Japan, and he was arrested and spent a wee bit of time in a Japanese prison, and it was global headlines. So of course McCartney knows there's that version, but he wasn't referring to that version when he was telling this story. But I'd heard what happened the night before. So in other words, Paul McCartney's looking out, as he does, to the audience, and he's saying, there was this time in Japan, and I just looked at him, I went, yes! And next thing is he just looked down at me and went, no, not that time. Literally, I had eye-to-eye contact with Paul McCartney for those, no, not that time, or 4 seconds maybe. But there you go, that was it. And not many people have had eye-to-eye contact with Paul McCartney and got a response. for all the time that they've been to see McCartney in concert, because usually you're too far away. But to actually be that close, we're actually looking, 10 foot away. I was afforded that opportunity. I don't think Benjamin knows this tale, so hopefully you'll actually watch this video and go, oh my god! So anyway, I just put it out there for you. I thought I'd come back strong with an intriguing story about my sort of 5-second interaction with Sir Paul McCartney, one of the Beatles. Anyway, that's it. I'll hopefully be able to do a few more now because I feel a wee bit better and I've got more time. I'm only working 2 days a week for the last few weeks driving. And hopefully I'll be able to go back to actually doing my music, songs that changed my life, things. And if anybody remembers me from what I used to do, it isn't getting any better for a certain person and his Patreons. I've noticed, because unfortunately some still come up on my Twitter feed, and even with the other mob that I used to belong to as well, it's not going too well for them. So I'd rather do this, which is a far more positive thing to talk about than, cult leaders. Anyway, I'm going out now to buy a Christmas wreath, which hopefully lights up. I've never ever bought one before, so I thought it's about time I bought one. I'm going out like this actually, why not? It is, after all, nearly Christmas. Anyway, it's a ho 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 away from me, and yeah, what a bummer. Christmas Eve, I'm going to watch Elf without my son because he's still in Australia. Hey ho, but jingle bells all the way. Goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you like what I do, you know what to do. Subscribe. My name is Terry. Bye bye.